Welcome along, everyone. This is the Durham Enables Lunch and Learn session, hiding in plain sight. We're just going to talk through some housekeeping. My name's Mel. I'm a team leader here at Durham Enable. The housekeeping rules, this webinar is going to be recorded today, so please turn your camera off if you prefer. We ask that everyone keeps their microphones muted unless you are interacting with the speaker or the host. If you do need live captions to support your accessibility today, they are available. You just need to go to meeting controls at the top of your screen and then select more, language and speech, and turn on live captions. This is a lunch and learn session, so please feel free to eat, to drink, to doodle. We're a really open space and we just want you to be as comfortable as possible. The discussions today do include people's lived experiences, so we just ask that people are respectful of that. Our speaker today is Charlotte. She will be presenting for around about 30 minutes, and then there'll be a chance at the end with 10 minutes worth of Q&A questions. Please feel free to drop questions into the chat, and we will come to these at the end of the session. And we do ask, though, that you don't post any links or sensitive information in there. And after the session today, you will receive an email with the recording of today's session and any slides or helpful or relevant links. And that's it from me with the housekeeping. And I'm going to pass you over to our engagement officer, Charlotte, who is going to be talking about hiding in plain sight. Charlotte.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Lovely to see some friendly and new faces as well. So my name is Charlotte Daglish. I am the engagement officer within Durham Enable. So it's my role to work with various partners, organisations, employees and businesses to really support employment and promote employment opportunities for our individuals. And yeah, just to do as much as I can to kind of support people into paid employment. So today's aims are going to be, I'm going to highlight my experience of living with a hidden disability. I'm going to talk about kind of how that diagnosis came about, how it impacted my life and my career moving from that diagnosis. I'm going to emphasise the need for reasonable adjustments as well as disclosure, and also reiterate the importance of educating others so that everyone has a better understanding of my hidden disability, but also other hidden disabilities and some statistics around that. So yeah. So when people see me, when you might see me at networking opportunities or in the office or out and about, just kind of generally shouting about Durham Enable, I would like to say that a lot of people just see me for being all of these things that are kind of coming up on the page. So I'm a mum, I'm a friend, professional, I'm very friendly, I'm highly organised, very, very busy. If you ever look at not just me, but also my diary, very dedicated, successful, tenacious, valued colleague, determined, all of these things, and not forgetting the dog lover at the end. But it's kind of, this is what I portray to the world. This is what I portray to my friends, my family, my manager, my colleagues and everyone else. But actually it is what you don't see that's something that really impacts my life. It's really impacted my career. It impacts every part of my day-to-day life. And these are the things that you don't see. So again, all of these things are symptoms of my disease that either have happened to me in the past or are currently happening to me. So again, there's a lot of things in here that I can kind of go over, like limited sign. So that is like an electric shock that runs down your spine, and it can happen at random times. It's not a nice thing to feel. But yeah, all of these things are things that I've experienced and have to live with, like around being a mum, a friend, a successful colleague. But I just want to kind of stop and kind of talk about how I was diagnosed and how this came about, because it was very much a shock to my life. So in June 2021, I was woken up in the middle of the night with all I can describe it as the worst headache, migraine that I've ever had in my whole entire life. My instinct was, this isn't normal. I don't normally have headaches this bad. I'd had paracetamol and ibuprofen at home, and it just wasn't shifting. So I thought, right, I'm going to ring 111 and see what they say. Waited for 111. Again, they'd asked the typical questions, paracetamol, ibuprofen. I was like, yeah, it's not shifting. And they were like, right, well, we'll get a doctor directly to ring you back and see what they can do from there. So in that meantime of waiting for that doctor to ring me back, it was about say 2, 3 a.m. I was unfortunately violently sick from the pain of this headache, this migraine, and I was like, this isn't normal. I only lived kind of 10 minutes away from the hospital. I was like, they're just going to send us to A&E. I'm just going to kind of do that myself. So got to A&E, and again was still being sick and still had the pain, the migraine. I think they gave us a couple more different medications to see if that would help with the pain. And I think aspirin worked in the end after a couple of hours of trying different things. But in the meantime, they'd also sent me for an MRI instant scan to kind of see what was going on in case there was a bleed in the brain or in case there was anything else. Once, obviously, with that can take a few days to actually get the MRI results back. So when the pain had subsided, they'd kind of said, and the sickness had stopped, that, right, you can go home, you'll receive a call in 24, 48 hours, a couple of days' time to kind of give you a prognosis. We'll do your referral to kind of the head clinic in the meantime as well for your headaches. I was like, right, okay, it's just a really bad headache. That was just kind of what I thought it was. Woke up the next morning after I was getting home, and my whole entire right side of my body was numb, and also had like tingling sensations all over my body, which I was like, oh, it must be a trapped nerve. I just think you're always trying to give yourself a valid reason for all these things that just aren't always kind of the worst. But I noticed that I was really struggling to hold a pen. I was really struggling to put the keys in my front door, really struggling with zips on jackets and zips on bags and purses, just the kind of that day. And I was like, this, I kind of just thought, this isn't normal. It doesn't feel right. So I got a call back from the hospital to go back in. And at that time, I just went in by myself, thinking it's going to be a trapped nerve, it's going to be a headache, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And to be kind of just a young doctor, just pulled into a little side room, and just, yeah, the words were kind of said, "Have you heard of MS?" And I was like, "Yes, I've heard of MS." And my first thoughts were, and the words that came out my mouth were, does this mean I'm disabled? Does this mean I'm going to be in a wheelchair? Those were the first two questions I asked. And at that time, the neurologist kind of couldn't give us an answer because he didn't really know anything other than the fact that I had lesions on my brain. It was like it means you have multiple sclerosis. That's all that means. I can't really give you much information. I'm going to give you a referral to the MS nurse and to the MS neurologists and the MS team. And obviously I expect to hear from them in the next couple of days. And it was like okay, that's great. Obviously I had no other moral support there because that wasn't something I was expecting. I then had to go tell my partner, tell my mum, which was one of the worst things for your mum to potentially hear about you. But yeah, that's fine. And over the next kind of couple of weeks, I was left in limbo. There was no other support until I heard from an MS nurse to book an appointment, which again takes a couple of weeks. So I was not on any other drugs or medication to help with the MS. It was just yeah, you'll hear from us. In that meantime, I'd also kind of, obviously, as you do, Google things, and there was a lot of other symptoms that I was kind of finding out that actually weren't normal, and you always just kind of think, oh, well, oh, that's this, or that's that, and oh, that's nothing. It's just a random little niggle or a random little pain. But there was one morning during the time I was waiting that I woke up and it was very, very hot. It was in the summer of 2021. It was we lived obviously in a really hot room, and I woke up just really, really sweating profusely. And I sat up on the edge of the bed, and all of a sudden, all I can explain is just a full body electric shock was running through my body like an electric current. My hands and feet clenched into claws. That wasn't something that I was doing to my body. That was something that my brain was doing to my body. My head kind of tilted back, and all of my muscles just contorted into just this really painful experience that felt to last forever. Now looking back, it only lasted a couple of minutes, but at that time, I wasn't in control of my body, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. So obviously it was paralysis. I couldn't move. I could barely talk from the pain and from this experience. I was managed to be able to shout out to my sister-in-law to like help, basically. So she kind of came in and didn't know what to do other than trying to cool me down, because I was thinking, oh well, it must be heat related, because I was just sweating and sweating and sweating. Managed to lie us back down whilst my body was still in this same kind of position, and it kind of eased off. And when my partner eventually came in the room, it was the first thing of like, oh, come on, just get up. Come on, just stand up. Like, we need to go and do this. We need to get out of this room. Just stand up. It's okay. Obviously, at that time, I was like, I physically can't move. You're telling us to stand up. You're telling us to walk. I'm trying to tell my body to do so, and it's not. So both of them kind of lifted us up, and I was trying to move my legs, and they were moving, but not the same way. They weren't moving in the way that was normal to me or normal to how I'd walked previously. And it did take quite a few hours for that full spasticity, that full mobility to kind of come back. And it was one of the most scariest times of my life. And as the diagnosis has kind of come through and I've spoken to MS nurses and everything like that, all of those other symptoms that I mentioned, so fatigue, brain fog, word finding difficulties, tingling, spasms, swallowing issues, chewing issues, heat and cold sensitivity. So yeah, I need a perfect day. As well as there's too many to kind of that I can remember, if I'm being honest, but itching sensations. So my palms will go really, really itchy. Chest tightening, which is again a really scary symptom to have. It's called an MS hug, where just this pressure on your chest, which will come at just a random time. Obviously weakened immune system, and it also affects kind of your mental health, depression, grief of the loss of what you think your life is going to be like. So before my diagnosis, I just thought, I'm going to live until I'm 90-year-old. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to be able to progress this normal life. And actually, from an MS diagnosis, that my initial thought was grief, loss of this life that I thought I could have. It really makes you question, can I have children? Should I have children? Am I with a person that is open to potentially being my full-time carer? Am I in a house that is going to be sustainable long term, in case I'm unable to walk, unable to use stairs, unable to go in the shower, I know that it will bathe myself. So all of these things that you've now got to think about. So you kind of go in this just dip of just denial and anger of like, why me? Trying to find an understanding of why this has happened to me. Is it genetics? Have I done something specific? Like what is it that's caused me to have this condition? And then you go right into the dip of depression, anxiety, grief, loss. And at that time, what was available to me was, at the quickest of time anyways, was just general talking therapies. So obviously one-to-one counselling over the phone. But I kind of did 2 of them, and I feel as if they weren't MS specific, so it was really hard to get that person to understand what I was going through. It did take probably about 9 months to a year to actually get counselling through MS UK, which really helped to bring me back into that acceptance where I am now, where I can actually talk about my experiences and talk about where I am now, and obviously how I feel comfortable to share it and talk about it. But yeah, that's my diagnosis story. So that's from 2021 June, when everything kind of started, and to where I am now. And obviously I do have relapse and remitting MS, so it is going to be something that is going to be constant in my life. I will go through periods of just having the same symptoms or no symptoms, and then it'll come back with a vengeance when it feels like it's want to. I am on medication. I have been on 2 different medications to try and hinder progression of the disease. But I'm kind of comfortable with where I am now, and long may it rain, basically. So what is MS? MS is an autoimmune disease which results in your body's immune system mistakenly attacking itself. It destroys the protective cover over your nerves called myelin in your brain and spine. And the damage forms scar tissues. So that's exactly what they've seen on that MRI. It's called sclerosis. And those lesions are basically what help you to get the diagnosis, as well as a lumbar puncture that you also had to go through, which was also horrendous, but that's a different story. So yeah, so going back to the hidden disabilities, some disabilities look like this. You may need kind of a frame, may need a wheelchair, you may need a dog for that support. And again, some look like this, some look like your ordinary day-to-day life person, that typical person that you would think of. But according to the government, a survey completed from 2017 to 2022, over 10 million people in the UK have a hidden disability, and only 20% of disabled people have a visible disability. Hidden disabilities diagnoses have increased by 63% in the last 6 years. And obviously today I can only kind of give my lived experience of MS, which is just one of many hidden disabilities. And although, again, I'm just talking about my MS, there is a lot of others that include kind of anxiety, depression, autism, learning disabilities, sensory impairments, and other chronic conditions like epilepsy, Crohn's, and endometriosis. But a lot of individuals may choose to wear the hidden disability sunflower, which is a tool used to help people with these conditions discreetly indicate that their need for support. But please be aware that not all individuals will choose to wear this symbol, and again, it is a personal choice. So when it comes to disclosure, it was one of the first things that I did when I got my diagnosis. Just because I was kind of just left in limbo. So it was like, I've been told this. I then had to go and tell my line manager, I've got this. And there was a lot of questions from manager. What does that mean? What does that mean for you moving forward? What does that mean for work? And I kind of was like, I don't know. At that time, I think I was just so blinded by the diagnosis that I didn't really have the answers. I hadn't done the research. I was just so stuck in that loss and grief that I mentioned. But disclosure is really, really important for those with hidden disabilities, and disclosure is really important for line managers, businesses, and employers to really look at. So while there's a high percentage of people today with hidden disabilities, disclosure rates remain really low. In 2023, a study found that 37% of employees with invisible disabilities haven't disclosed their disability at work. Reasons for this include like fear of being perceived as less capable, discrimination, or the belief that disclosure won't lead to improvements. I would kind of say disclosure for me at that time probably did lean more towards the fear of being perceived as less capable, just because I really wanted to uphold the work ethic, the dedication, the hard workness. I was probably a bit timid and kind of thinking, they're going to think I can't do this. They're going to think that I'm not going to get a promotion because I've now got this disability that's then going to stop us from kind of being thought of. So although I did kind of, just because out of random, I just was like, I don't know what to say. So I kind of was like, yes, I've got MS, but I didn't really want to talk about my symptoms at that time. So it was like, I don't want them to think I can do less. I don't want them to think I'm not part of the team. I'm not as committed as everyone else. But disclosure is really, really important. And kind of since I've disclosed, all of these fantastic opportunities have came to me, and it's actually been one of the best things that I would do, and I would recommend that 100% to anyone with a hidden disability. So there is a bit of a discussion to be had around those that have lived with a disability since birth, and also those that have a late diagnosis of a disability. So obviously I can only give my experience of having a late diagnosis and how that impacted me when I was already in work. But again, disclosure is a choice for a lot of people, and people choose to disclose and they choose not to disclose. But for me, this is my story. So it's very important to be honest, and honest as much as possible with your line managers. And it's all about kind of, for me, that progression of my disability, that actually things will just all of a sudden change. Things will all of a sudden just be updated, and then actually that's why I have a disability passport. That's something that we have within Durham County Council, and it's something that I recommend for all employers, managers, and businesses to use to have for those individuals, because it's an easy way to keep track of that information and ensure that that person is protected. When I did disclose, I was also given an occupational health referral, and I've also had reviews since my first one. And again, that's something that really, having someone else kind of talk to me through my diagnosis and give recommendations of what work can do. And sometimes that's actually things that they recommend that I'm not aware of that might be really helpful. So again, those are some really good things that I would recommend. So working with MS. So since I've been diagnosed with MS, I have moved from a job coach to an engagement officer role. That was because at that time when I was still a job coach and had been diagnosed, I was really putting my health to one side, and really was putting all of my all and my passion into supporting others and helping them support them with their disabilities and getting them into employment, making sure that they're successful. And as you can hear, there's a lot of them, they, not me. And that's something that through my counselling and through my one-to-one support really had a bit of self-awareness, a bit of actually you need to look after yourself in order to look after others and support others. So my move to engagement officer has been a fantastic move, a fantastic job match for me, if I'm being honest with my skills. It doesn't mean that I have not also done job coaching on a smaller scale, but yeah, so I've done a kind of mixture of engagement officer, and when I felt ready and more acceptable of who I am and what I need and my needs, then I've actually been able to kind of go back and support others in a job coach role. So I've done a bit of a both, but again, it's been that journey. Obviously, I've got relapse and remitting MS, so my journey is very much up and down. I have had further lesions and further new symptoms since my diagnosis, and again, that's just something that I have to get on with, and it's something that I just kind of keep that open line of communication with my line manager, and just try and be as reflective on myself to kind of be honest with myself and others about that. And when I need rest, or when I can sense that there's something coming on or something new, I kind of take that time to understand it and get to grips with it. Again, the grief, I would say I am now at a stage where it's an acceptance. However, that kind of depression, anxiety, I feel as if may always be part of my journey, just as new symptoms may come, any progression in my disability, whether it affects my motor skills, my physicality. I feel as if that's always just going to be something that I work with, but at the minute I'm fine. And again, the specific counselling for MS, and I believe that's just specific to MS charities that we can get that. However, with other hidden disabilities, there will be specific charities that can kind of give that one-to-one more direct support for those disabilities as well. So reasonable adjustments. A reasonable adjustment is a change that an employer or service provider must make to remove or reduce a disadvantage faced by a disabled person, ensuring they have equal access to opportunities. Reasonable adjustments for interviews can include changing interview format, providing interview questions in advance, offering more time, or providing support like sign language interpreter. But also reasonable adjustments for people in work or employment include adjustments to work environment, so that might mean ramps, change to lighting, quieter workspaces, or use of modifying equipment such as assistive tech, larger screens, larger keyboards. But things that I specifically have for me is obviously being moved from job coach to engagement officer. Occupational health assessments and regular reviews, so that's updated for between myself and my line manager. Flexible working, so at time of diagnosis I wasn't sleeping very well, and obviously I needed stuff to get my mind off of what was going on. So actually at that time I was able to work when I was awake. So if I was awake between 3 and 5 a.m. and I had stuff that I could be getting on with, admin, I would be able to do that. Obviously now, if I am again an early bird, so I have flexible working hours, and I kind of manage that with my manager on a one-to-one basis. Hybrid working, I can also work from home as well as work from the office. And if I obviously have symptoms or the fatigue's really, really bad at that point, I can just simply work from home. And again, it's just all about that management one-to-one weekly chats with manager. Equipment, so as I said, I am heat sensitive and cold sensitive. So yeah, I also have if my numbness or if my heavy limbs kind of come into play, I also have a little suitcase that you can hear me from a mile away, so you can always hear me, and I've always got like little fans in there, and obviously everything's just makes my life easier for if I have those symptoms. But there is lots of other things that I can get access to as things progress as well, and all my appointments are covered as well. So those are just my specific reasonable adjustments at this time, but again that might change with MS as it is relapse and remitting. So a couple of facts and myths that I just want to kind of discuss with MS. So MS is the same for everyone who has it. That's not true. MS is often called a snowflake disease because each individual's experience with the condition is unique. And just like no two snowflakes are exactly alike, so no one will have the exact same symptoms or experience that I have. MS equally impacts men and women. Again, not true. MS is 2.5 times more common in women than it is men. I don't know why, don't ask me. I do apologise, I don't know the answer, but that's the answer. MS is an all person's disease. I very much fell into that myth, that thought of when it was mentioned to me about MS, I just automatically thought of an elderly gentleman and elderly female with that disease. But actually it's really more commonly diagnosed within the ages of 20 to 40, with most experienced first symptoms from 20. Now reflecting, I can see that I actually had symptoms from the age of like 18. So it's definitely something that's not just an all person's disease. It can affect anyone at any time. Women with MS shouldn't get pregnant. MS doesn't affect fertility. But one thing that you do need to think about is your children only have a 1.5% chance of developing MS. So I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I am also currently pregnant. So it's not that it affects fertility, but it does just raise questions when you're making family planning decisions around are they more likely to get it, and it's only 1.5%. People with MS are always in a wheelchair. Again, MS UK used to have their brand and logo as a little orange person in a wheelchair. They've now totally deleted all evidence of that, but that is definitely used to be their logo. And again, not everyone with MS will need a wheelchair, just thanks to new medication, new treatments, new drugs, obviously, and physio and general health. MS is a fatal disease. So whilst MS is a lifelong disease, it's actually not fatal. Statistics do say that it can reduce life expectancy by 6 to 7 years. Originally, it was 9 to 10. We're now moving down towards 6 to 7. Hopefully in the future, we can kind of move that more towards the 0, where actually you can kind of still live that full life expectancy. Things that I wish I could have told myself now, looking back at my diagnosis stage where I was left in limbo. MS doesn't mean the end. It doesn't mean the end of your life. It doesn't mean that you can't have a family and you can't have a career and you can't be successful. It just means you have to make some changes. Don't Google. Dr. Google is the worst. I hate Dr. Google. And I think that's even just for anyone, a parent, anyone who's got a cold, a sniffle, do not Google. It's the worst thing that you can do. Obviously a snowflake condition. So when I did Google, when I shouldn't have, obviously you kind of read all about these horrendous experiences and how life can change for so many people. And again, that is their truth, that is other people's truths, but don't scare yourself that is automatically going to happen to you. And again, not every MS is the same. Fatigue isn't just feeling tired. I've had to learn the difference between being tired and being fatigued. And the amount of times after, like, if I say, oh my goodness, I'm so tired, and everyone's like, oh yeah, me too, and I'm like, no, that's not how this works. It's different, but okay, I'll take that on board. But fatigue is literally the physical draining of your whole energy, body, brain, kind of everything, all your functions just starting to kind of deplete. It's okay to ask for help. I am getting better at this, as I hope my line manager would hopefully back me up for. Again, you kind of go through that stage of just wanting to crack on, you can do it, I can prove to everyone I can do it, I can prove to myself I can do it, but actually no, you can do it with help, you can do it with support. It just means you're doing it a little bit differently. Again, you're not alone, and again, this is just for MS. There is local groups and kind of national charities that you can go to for support, and again, it will be the same for different hidden disabilities. There will be natural support groups for that as well. And rest. Again, I've always been like 100 miles an hour, cracking on, trying to get as much into my diary in a week to try and prove myself to everyone else that I'm worth my job, I'm worth progression, I'm worth that career that I really, really desire. And I am still worth that, but actually just because I take an afternoon off doesn't mean I'm any less. So 6 ways to support someone with an invisible illness. Validate them and express empathy. Try as much to kind of understand them. Believe them. That's a really big thing, key thing. And trust that they know their body enough to know that something is wrong. So if they're coming to you and telling you that they need something, you need to take that time out of your day to listen. Advocate and show support. So my line manager has directly done some MS training, which I didn't even know about until she'd already completed it, which was really, really nice to know. Educate yourself. So have you can Google at this point, you can read up on things, you can educate yourself, and again, learn from the person who's gone through, to ask them about their experience, ask them about what do they need, what's their experience like. Again, encourage and ask them to seek, like, offer help. I think sometimes you don't want to accept it, but actually that offer of help does make a difference. And again, offer reasonable adjustments and regularly review those reasonable adjustments with occupational health as well. And that's me done. I feel as if I've rushed a lot into that kind of 30 minutes. I really thank you for everyone that's took that time to listen to my story. I was kind of saying before this that I really struggle when it comes to talking about myself. I'm really much better at talking about facts and figures and supported employment in general. But yeah, thank you very much. And has anyone got any questions? I'm going to pass it back to Mel quickly.
Thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, that it's just really fantastic that you're able to share your experiences with us. And I do hope that people have taken a lot from the session. And yeah, so if anybody does have any questions, there's a couple of hands up. Do you want to stop sharing, Charlotte, so we can see
Yeah. Yes, I found it now. Do you want to lead the questions then, Mel?
Yeah, Mitch.
Yeah.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good afternoon, Charlotte. Lovely to be here. Lovely to be here. My question to you is, has your acquired condition given you a different perspective on your work and how you engage with employers, which I know you're very good at?
Yes, is the answer. So obviously actually I didn't talk about my career before this, but anyways, so my career before supported employment was very much like hospitality. You're very much on the go, on your feet all the time. And then I moved and transitioned into recruitment, where it was just sales, money. It was very much just like that, watch the world go around. And I was kind of like, I wanted some like passion. I wanted to help other people. So obviously I came into supported employment because I have family that are disabled, and that was kind of my drive. And then when I had my own diagnosis, it was like, wow, it was just a completely 180 of, actually it's not just my dad I'm helping or my cousin that I'm helping. It's people that have had this diagnosis, that have had this grief, this loss, that need it more than ever, because it does make you think, my world is ending, my life is ending, I'm not worth this, I'm not worth that. And actually now I do talk about it when I'm talking to employers. I'm kind of saying, actually, I have a disability, and kind of saying that you wouldn't look at me and kind of think that I have a disability, but actually I do, and it just really spurs me on. And a lot of the time, I have had some employers kind of say it was, oh, you should really push that more.
Yeah.
You should really push that more, that you have a disability, and I'm just like, yes, I do understand that, but actually I want to work. I don't want you to just use that. If
No,
that
I
makes
get
any
that.
sense.
Yeah.
But they're just like, oh, you should get up on stage and talk about it as your experience. I'm like, yeah, but what about all the other people that we've supported and who are in sustainable employment? It's their stories, it's their journey. So this is just mine, but look at all these fantastic people that we've helped, that we've changed their lives just through that. And I do think it's given me a lot more passion and drive than I already had, if I'm being honest. But yeah.
Thank you very much, Charlotte.
Thank you. Julie, is it? Oh, sorry, I've made an assumption there. J. Smith.
Jackie.
Jackie. You're on mute, Jackie.
Oh, honestly, 5 years of Zoom and I should have to be told I'm on mute. Sorry about that. And I work remotely. Charlotte, thanks so much. I feel it's really brave you sharing all of that today. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the disability passport that you mentioned, and about the disclosure and why the rates are so low. Well, you explained why, but how do you think we can tackle that and help people feel that they can share more with their employer? Do you think the onus should be on the employer to have that open culture?
Yes.
So that people feel they can share it more? Yeah.
Personally, yes, I agree. So I think obviously something that Durham Enable is doing, other than kind of raising the profile of supported employment and creating opportunities, it's very much about education. And obviously all these tools that we use, so disability passport, in-work support plans, all those things, actually it's things that all the other employers can have access to and should have access to, but it's kind of that unknown. So it is more about the education and the training and that support that we can do. So I always kind of see ourselves as like a consultancy. So we can look at their recruitment practices and policies. We can look at like what tools they're using currently to support their staff, and also looking at their kind of recruitment methods to say, have you thought about reasonable adjustments? Is that something that's part of your job descriptions? Is it clear that you are looking, that you are open? Are you disability confident? Are you open to working with different communities? But I think obviously my experience is obviously from a late diagnosis whilst I was in employment. So when I'm working with individuals that are choosing whether to disclose beforehand, so at interview stage, or disclosing like later, we always kind of push disclosure at the earliest stage, because the support is available from an earlier stage, and actually it'll help with that understanding of the line manager or the whoever's interviewing them, really get to understand them more. So again, it starts at education quite early. So all of those tools, the disability passport and everything like that, we can kind of support employers to create their own, or kind of use ours as an example of what it should look like for an employer. And it is just kind of asking employees and managers and businesses and colleagues just to be a bit more open to try another way, try something new, because it's what's right, as well as actually you're going to probably miss out on a lot of really good candidates if you don't. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's great. And I think you're right, the disability confident, not just having the badge and displaying it, although that is really important so candidates can see.
It's
But
about
actually
practice.
talking about it at interview and induction, and then introducing it in one-to-ones and things. I think it just opens the conversation, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
well, thanks, Charlotte. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. A couple of comments in the chat. Charlotte just saying that they've really enjoyed the experience and that it was an inspiring. So that's lovely
Thank
to
you.
hear.
Is there any more questions, or?
Matthew?
Hi there. This is a little bit of a strange one, but bear with me. So, how would you say we will be able to reach those managers who aren't necessarily as engaged as they should be in making sure they're aware of different conditions and that sort of thing? Because I know from just my personal experience throughout my working life, I'm 43, so I've been in work for say 22 or so years, that actually there's a lot of people out there that don't engage with like disability positive, I suppose, sort of all these training courses. Like this one in particular, like if I wasn't bothered, I wouldn't turn up and I wouldn't learn about your experience.
Yeah.
How do you think we as a community can get together and kind of encourage those that aren't necessarily too bothered to come along and actually get involved?
That is a difficult one. So again, all we can do as a service is kind of push, promote, and make as many people aware of our service and our offer as much as possible. So obviously we now have our inclusive employee network, which has grown from it's now up to 70 employers, and we're kind of selling out events, and those are quarterly. Like those are really thought-provoking, really engaging events that we're really trying to push within the county and within the Northeast. Obviously, we're doing our Lunch and Learn, which is available nationally. But again, it's all about education and awareness, and kind of obviously our support and our training to employers is free and is actually part and parcel of who we are and what we do. So that is our kind of way of kind of trying to do as much as possible. But again, it's all, a lot of it's social media as well, I would say.
I was just going to add there, actually, yeah, it's sharing those positive experiences and shouting them from the rooftops as much as we can, that hopefully you're going to reach that wider audience and capture the imagination or the attention of maybe those people who aren't as engaged in it. So, we do our best to talk about the positive stories, to promote the employers who are inclusive, to really share and getting employers to champion the service.
Yeah.
That kind of helps with that.
We use a lot of like lived experience, so a lot of the individuals that we've supported into employment, we kind of ask for them to kind of come back and share their journey, share their experience, because we find that those are the most kind of hard-hitting experiences for other employers to really understand. And I think once you see it, you believe it. So that's why I would really try to push you seeing it. And obviously that is kind of across social media, in person, in events, and all those kind of things. But yeah, that's the way we're trying to do it as much as possible.
Thank you. And thank you very much for sharing your experience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again.
I just wanted to add to that point as well. It's the sort of, there's always some way that you can engage with someone, and I think it's connecting to that personal, like Charlotte was saying, you know, when they see it, it becomes real. And I think there's always, in every single person, there's I want to do good, I want to do good things, I want to be a good person. So I think there's always something that you can connect with, whether it's, you know, their family member might be disabled or be neurodivergent. And yeah, I think a big part of it is just finding that sort of human click, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
We always kind of talk about kind of like putting all those jigsaw pieces into place. And it's like sometimes you just need one jigsaw piece that kind of resonates with someone to help us then fill in the rest of the jigsaw with the education, with the right match, with the in-work support, with everything like that. So it is very much, we just need that person to have that one jigsaw piece for us to then complete the picture. But yeah.
Rebecca?
Just on the back of that and using people's personal experiences, because I'm somebody who's been quite vocal, but on occasion within the business, I felt more of a token piece and a showpiece and a trophy. So kind of being overused and overutilized. Do you have any suggestions on the avoidance of that? It's very difficult. I know it's very difficult.
Yeah. I think I've kind of said that employers, when I am talking to them sometimes, they'll kind of say, oh yeah, you should talk more about your experience. And they kind of see me as a person that doesn't, again, that hidden disability. I don't look as if I'm disabled. So they're kind of shocked when I do have a disability and it doesn't impact my work. But again, I think it's very much about me being you need to be comfortable with sharing your story as and when you choose. And again, if you do feel as if you're more kind of getting to that uncomfortableness, then it's maybe a one-to-one conversation with your line manager or about that, and actually kind of maybe thinking about, do we have any other staff networks that where other people are happy to share their stories. Obviously Durham County Council do have a staff network, and it's something that's just as a personal preference that I've shared my story, and Bambi was happy to share her story last time. Megan is going to share her story in the future. It should be personal preference. It shouldn't be made to feel as if it's a tick box. So again, maybe a bit of an education for the employer, manager, business to kind of be a bit more sensitive around disability as a topic within the organisation.
Thank you. Bambi? Final comments?
Just adding to that, it's just remembering, I think, that actually the journey for somebody with a disability will have been longer than you have met them. They'll have experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of setbacks, a lot of difficulties. So it's for employers to understand that actually when you're asking someone to talk about their story, you just remembering that, and like Charlotte says, be sensitive to the fact that they will have experienced a lot of negative, but a lot of positive as well. But it's just making sure that there's a balance. And Rebecca, like Charlotte says, you have ultimate choice as to how much you share or how little you share. You don't always have to be the person to stand in front of people and talk about what it is that you've been through.
Yeah.
And certainly, if your employer, Rebecca, needs some different stories to use, these lunch and learns are going to be readily available. So it's a real good insight into different. We're hoping to continue the theme of the storytelling theme with bringing in some of our job seekers as well as the team. So hopefully there'll be a bank of stories that could be used.
I'd be happy to kind of, well, Durham Enable would be happy to kind of talk to you outside of this to kind of talk about actually can we support other individuals within the business or new individuals into the business. So yes, it's fantastic that they want to shout about obviously how good you are, and obviously, but actually in a way that you don't feel as if your story's being used and it's not just a tick box, but actually that they're doing it for the right reasons. And obviously who we are and what we do is all about positivity, inclusivity, diversity. So I'd be happy to kind of have that conversation with you if you did feel as if that might be a useful kind of thing as well.
And the contact details will be shared when the slides come out. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And we've run over just by a couple of minutes.
Sorry.
We really appreciate your time. No, it's really useful conversation, and it's difficult to put a pin in it, isn't it? So thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we hope to see you again at the next one.
Durham Enable, a brighter future for inclusive employment.